everyone to week 4 now of SmashUp Review, Card Sharp, Haibo Does Data, whatever we're calling it this week. Joining me as always is my co-host Owen, and our guest for this week is Benny Chen. Benny is he's one of my best friends. We actually went to college together. He is one of the original players in SmashUp back when it was purely a concept and we were doing it on Excel all the way back in, was it 2017, Benny? I think when we started.
Yeah. Back when
Um,
there was also a little bit more of a vindictive streak, which is perfect because I'm mostly made of spite.
yes, yes. Yeah, Benny was one of the original folks. So really excited to have him on today. He is also a what are you? You're emergency medicine and pediatrician?
Yeah,
Pediatric
so
emergency medicine?
exactly. So I deal mostly with screaming children, a lot of tantrums and emotions, and sort of gauging risk.
So not
Which
too
means I'm
much like dealing
terrible
with
at
wide receivers. Uh, and and we will I'm sure we will certainly talk about that today. So yeah, let's jump right into it. Week 4. Owen, any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know if I have it totally branded yet, but we'll start it with Owen's top five. So number one, I talked about the rivalry games last week. How about Atlanta game-winning kick over the Saints, longest 58-yarder in Mercedes-Benz history, and then the Vikings hang on to beat the Packers also by 2. So pretty amazing stuff there. Cowboys Giants 5-point game. Who cares? That was Thursday night. Rookie QBs number 2, Bo Nix on the board, right? Gets his
Oh,
first
next.
touchdown. Jaden, I mean, can you say anything else about him? Just dazzling there. Caleb gets a win. We're going to give that shout out though to DeAndre Swift, who finally woke up. And then I think everyone's wondering how long till we see Drake May. He's got to be coming soon. Number 3, Dobbins bottled up. We're not going to talk about him. Jameson, how good was he last night? Just lightning speed. UGA still reeling over their loss. They don't want any part of Jameson either when he was there, but shout out to Ryan Williams. He is a beast for Alabama. Number 4, we are down to 2 undefeateds now. We got the Chiefs and the Vikings left, so pretty exciting there. And then number 5, my bad beat of the week, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6.5 catches, 5 at the first half. My friend gets 1 the entire second half to cause that to not go over.
At the beginning of the season, would you have predicted Chiefs Vikings at this point, 4 games in?
Chiefs normally, I feel like, start a little slow and turn it on in the playoffs. So I am surprised to see them. Vikings, no chance. Didn't see that coming at all with Darnold.
Yeah. And Chiefs, it feels like they lose another piece every single week.
That's right.
Like
Yeah.
it's just who's
Oh,
even going to
and
be left?
somehow they
It's going to
keep
be,
ticking.
yeah. Benny,
But they're
any
also
thoughts on
getting
your
new
end?
pieces back, right? Like who is Clyde Edwards-Helaire not a piece? Oh wait,
yeah.
no.
Now it's like Kareem Hunt, right? You get Hunts there now and just I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you for the bargain bin.
Um, Benny, any thoughts on your end? Any week 4 reactions?
I mean, I think the worst part of all of this is the preseason is still in recent memory where you still had all this hope where you're just like, oh, who's it going to be, right? Am I putting my money down on drafting Anthony Richardson or am I drafting Jaden Daniels later? Like, what am I going to do? And it's clarifying now and it still stings when, well, I chose Anthony Richardson and whoops, right? And choices like that are still very, very fresh and feel very, very raw. Some of them you get right, but you don't really remember them. It's the ones that you're like, oops, I pivoted wrong. That really sting.
Well, Benny, congratulations. Some of us didn't get any right. I'm looking at my team in best ball and I'm like, this is garbage. This is true dumpster fire we got going right here.
Yeah, I took Mark Andrews in like the 6th round. That
Thinking
back
it'd be such a steal.
back to back zeros, 1 target, which he dropped.
Yeah, he sure did.
So yeah, yeah, my team is not in good shape. Not in good shape. But that's why we play Smash Up, right?
That's
Like
right. Good thing
new
Smash Up
team,
is here.
new team every week. New team every week.
That's like a goldfish memory. Am I
Yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly. All right, well, let's take a look at, how Smash Up did last week. Um, so again, we had close to 1,000 players across our league and kind of weekly tournament, over 2,000 lineups. So a good sized sample. We'll kind of take a look at again kind of the top players selected. Um, Again, I would say there's a couple things that jump out. So these are ranked in terms of kind of most selected to least. Jaden Daniels shooting up. There's so many people taking Jaden now every week. The one I'm a little surprised by is Lamar Jackson. Lamar has been just on a roll. I think we saw a few like top 5 teams the last couple of weeks all have Lamar, and powered up Lamar, I think, with Smash cards. And again, he was a top 5 pick here, but at number 5, um, I would have thought I mean, there are some cards that are just tailor made uh, for him. So we'll see how that goes. Um,
Maybe we should have tailor-made cards for Mark Andrews and anyone scoring zeros.
oh man, if you if you're picked by more than 50% of people and you score 0, you get
Heartbreakers.
Heartbreak. Yeah.
yeah, not a bad idea. Maybe, maybe we come up with something. And then yeah, I don't know. It's I feel like a lot of these have been fairly consistent over the past couple weeks. Oh, and anything that kind of jump out at you?
I'm looking at the wide receivers. The bookends there of Malik and Harrison, the 2 rookie receivers in that list, I think is pretty great. I might have to, in addition to my rookie QB report, I might have to start a rookie wide receiver to report because they're dynamic, and I'm just bummed out about Rasheed Rice. I mean, that tanked a lot of people. I'm sure. What a brutal
Hmm.
injury. And
Yeah. Um, what was interesting is I mean, I think a ton of people picked San Francisco this week. Just a ton of folks, and for good reason. They had a fantastic game. Um, what's really interesting is I think that number 3 defense, the Jets, because it's a lot of people play defense wins championships. And part of that defense stack that people like, defense wins championships is usually one of the most played cards. Um, and they lost. Right? They lost this week, but I think the defense they still had a really good game, even though they lost. It was just Aaron Rodgers couldn't get anything going.
yeah, I don't remember what was it. Was it like 12-9? I don't remember the
I think it was
final.
10-9.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was an ugly game.
yeah. So even though they lost, I mean, I think it was still a good pick there for the Jets on the defense side.
I can say personally, I'd used a lot of Brees Hall, and that was rough. Saquon also underperformed.
Hmm. And the Eagles, I'm an
Yeah,
Eagles fan, by the way. It is not, man, it is they are hurting. Yes, you don't really notice how big of a drop off, not having AJ Brown and then not having
yeah. Devontae
uh
Smith wasn't there
Devonta
this week.
Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
but the bye week's around the corner, right? Like maybe hold on for a little bit more and everything will turn around in a little bit.
Yeah,
certainly
totally
hope
right.
so. Certainly hope so. Um, so moving on, these are kind of the top cards of the week. Um, Again, you see quite a few of the base level cards, starting wide receivers, starting running back. We talked about Human Vulture. I was really surprised to see Run CMC as the 4th most picked card this
Wow.
week. Um, we were talking with Cody, who's our CTO, and Cody was mentioning, I think for the first couple of weeks, and I think during the preseason and maybe the week 1 or week 2, Run CMC did not hit for a single person. There were times when there's just like there are entire weeks where Run CMC doesn't hit. Oh, just as a clarifier, Run CMC is if your running back gets 80 rushing yards and 80 or more rushing yards and 40 or more passing yards, you get 30 points. Okay, so it's one of those 30 or nothing, but both a rushing plus receiving combo. And there were several weeks where no running back hit those numbers. And then this week we see it as the fourth most played card. Any guesses, Benny? Any guesses on what was driving that? Who do you think everybody played Run CMC on?
I'm gonna guess Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry. Okay,
I would have
Owen.
gone
Like rips
Saquon.
off at 87 right off the bat. Did he hit?
It is Saquon.
Oh,
97 people. 97 people played Run CMC on Saquon.
well, he's got the speed, he's got the power, he's got that je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, I mean, he I guess I guess the thought is without those receivers, Saquon was just going to do everything for the Eagles this week. I mean, you see him in 4 of the top 10 combo picks this week. Um,
Wow, yeah, crazy bell cow and freight train.
yeah, yep. Yeah. Anything here that stands out to you, Owen?
Everyone that played all those Saquons is disappointed in it. The Rashee Rice, just a lot of, I think, disappointment kind of on this board. Really, I don't think
Also
Kyler.
Kyler.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think Kyler hit either for Mr. Relevant. I am bummed out, Haibo. We highlighted Cannon Arm last week and didn't move the needle. I mean, no one liked our thoughts on that.
I don't know. I mean, it might have. So we picked the top 10. I think Cannon Arm was I'm pretty sure it was top 15 this week.
Okay, that's good to hear.
I think it was top 15. Yeah.
I
So
played it on Caleb Williams and it did not work out for me.
well, we'll try again next week. Cool. So, these were some of the kind of the most played players, most played cards. Let's take a look at some of the top lineups for this week. So going in, one thing that we noticed is that scoring went back up. Remember when we talked about scoring, I think a few weeks ago, and it was kind of in the 170, 180. This week, a ton of people over 200, including the winner. So nicely spread out, 40.6 points on home field advantage. I've
Wow.
noticed a lot of people playing home field advantage. That seems to be a pretty uh, popular card that's getting played. Um, Starting RB on Jordan Mason, which was very solid. And then also here, defense wins championships on San Fran. So pretty,
Solid lineup.
yeah. What was really interesting, I think, here was normally you actually don't see this because normally the cards, I think, make such an impact that rarely do you ever see the person who scores the most player points actually win.
Okay.
But this week he did, or he or she. 162 points on the player side. I think that was the highest. Though certainly, talk to Tucker here, 122. But 93 on the card points. So really dominating the card points here.
And there are a whole bunch of people, like just scrolling through, there are a whole bunch of people scoring 93 on card points, and that jumped out to me. It was just like that's a weird number that repeats itself over and over. And it's all San Francisco defense special teams with three stacked cards on them.
Yeah. So we continue to see some of the defense stacks. What we're also starting to see, and I wanted to actually point this out, if we look at Pink Panther, we saw a lot of this last season. And I was curious to see if people would start doing it again. But this is basically, I like to call it kind of the gambler stack. So you're not stacking it on a particular defense or a particular player, but you're essentially playing the same type of card. This is when you play Hail Mary, Unstoppable Freight Train, and Speed Demon. So
Yeah.
30 or nothing cards, and you hope that they all hit, and when they all hit, you get 90 points. Very, very popular strategy last season. We'll be curious to see if more people start playing it again.
Just because I like to ask questions that no one's ever prepared for. What's the hit rate on that, I wonder?
Uh, I don't know, but I think it's one of those things where like we talked a little bit about this last week, right? Like within weekly, you want that variance to be high.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so if it doesn't hit, it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
if it hits, it gives you a good shot at placing placing top 50 and kind of being in the money.
I mean, especially with Pink Panther here stacking the players and those cards, like that's just gonna be astronomical when it does hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 112 points, not a huge week from a player standpoint, but that 90 points really makes a pretty big difference.
Hmm.
And now
Um,
still, where are people not playing those tight ends? I'm going to talk about it every week until I see some more people winning that way. But maybe that trend kind of disappear in Haibo?
we are starting to see a few more folks not playing tight ends.
Okay.
Um,
It's just been so bad.
it has been. It has been. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, well, I don't know. Do you think it's going to revert, or do you think tight ends are just it's not happening this year?
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's happening this year. I mean, at some point you're going to see some big scores, but I keep taking swings at Kittle, and I know he got a touchdown, but it's just like no one's landing.
I'm
Well,
envisioning people playing fantasy 30 years ago, pen and paper, doing the same thing, being like, oh man, who do I start at fullback? What's going on? And that's slowly dwindling away. And now we just have Kyle Juszczyk. And like 20
That's
years from
right.
now, he'll
Yeah,
be,
get some
all
Mike
right, there's
Allstott
my
lineup.
fullback.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. The nice thing I like about this too is, and you'll see this, it's actually not three bets. It's really only two bets because they paired Burrow with Chase, and it's kind of like, well, if Chase is getting a 40-yard reception, Burrow probably got a 50-yard pass.
Mhm.
That's a pretty safe stack there. Um, so we'll see if people start playing more of these 30 or nothing cards going forward. But um, all right. Well, one of the quarterbacks that was super interesting this week was Jordan Love, and and I think you brought him up. Let's talk about Love. Um, 4 touchdowns, was it?
Yep. To
Three
go along.
interceptions.
3 interceptions. Yeah.
Wow. He just kept throwing it. And so I think that goes into I think our cards of the week. Um, Owen, I think you wanted to, this was your pick this week. Let's talk about Goldfish Memory.
Yeah, I think it's great, right? I mean, you're taking a negative, the interception, which normally is going to lose you to, and you're turning it into 8 points. And I like to be a little bit card sharp. And Vegas typically sets quarterback interceptions at a half, right? You don't expect too many thrown in any given week, but there are quarterbacks that are more prone to it, right? Teams that are going to be throwing it from behind. And I think that's pretty interesting. And when you ask who I'm looking at for next week, I'm going to have a surprise because typically, Haibo, I think you said this, normally it's players you think of that aren't good, but Jordan Love's a pretty solid quarterback, right? But they have these tendencies that are going to yield you pretty positive results on that. Again, it's an all or nothing, but you're hedging your bet a little bit. I don't want any negatives there, and you're really getting a positive return, a 10-point swing.
Hmm. And I think specifically on your point, we have actually, I think 5 or 6 cards that are in this mold, right, of turning bad things into positive things. Double joink, projectile dysfunction. We have quite a few of these cards that are like take negatives and give you points. Bobblehead is another one where, every incomplete pass is worth 3 points for a wide receiver. The challenge is this a lot of times it makes you pick a bad player, right? Which is fine if you're running low on budget and you're like, I'm going to take this terrible kicker or this terrible quarterback. Very rarely do you have like a good player that also generates a lot of these things. At least that was my thought. But when we take a look deeper, that actually turns out not to be the case, and we'll kind of talk a little bit more about that when we kind of dig into this. Let's take a look at goldfish memory. So these were the top scores this week. Jordan Love with the 3 interceptions with 30 points. Jacoby, Matt Stafford, and Sam Darnold each had 20 points with two turnovers. 16 other quarterbacks had 1 turnover. So it was interesting, Owen, you said that Vegas sets the interception line at half. This basically means 20 of the 32 quarterbacks had. Now, maybe they weren't all interceptions. Maybe 1 or 2 were fumbles, but that's a pretty, like, you're kind of right on that line of a half being, just about right here.
Yep.
This is actually why I'm a little bit heartbroken that Will Levis got hurt and went out.
Yeah.
The dude was good for 3 turnovers every game between interceptions and fumbles, like 3.
Yeah. Yeah. There are some, and actually, I mean, given this, Benny, so thinking ahead to next week, to kind of week 5, who are you, if you had to play goldfish memory on someone, who are you taking?
Um, it'd be probably Anthony Richardson. The guy's like done just under what Will Levis's turnover rate was. I think he's got like 8 or 9 thus far already on the season, but he's dealing with that hip pointer sort of pain issue. So if not him, then I'm hoping, you know, maybe they put Jameis Winston in and we get a swing there. We can all hope for that.
Oh
But
man.
actually, I think about this as you want a guy who's still kind of good, but prone to making a mistake here or there. And I don't know about 3 turnovers, but looking at Derek Carr, I feel like they're primed to at least have 1, maybe 2 if we're lucky.
All right.
Let me,
Owen, how about
yeah,
you?
let me flip this. This one, you're gonna pause. Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
Listen, the guy's gonna put up points. He's great. He's the best quarterback in the league. No one's gonna argue it. He's thrown 5 picks this year. He's going up against the Saints, who have intercepted 6. They're the 3rd most intercepting team in the league. Come on, that's a recipe for he's going to score, but he's also going to turn it over. It's a unique play that I think will be a differentiator.
So kind of along those lines, my pick for this week is going to be Josh Allen. Josh Allen, I mean, last year, when you talk about a good quarterback who just didn't he have something like a 15 game streak last year where he turned it over at least once for like
Right.
15
Yeah.
games in a row? He had it in, now he's been very good so far this year, but he's playing the Texans next week. Sure, there's a little bit of ego there with going up against Diggs. Like,
Yeah.
I think
Good
I think
call.
Josh Allen's gonna have 1 or 2 turnovers, and I think he's gonna put up points. Like, he wants to show up Diggs, but I think I think Josh Allen might be an interesting one this week as well. Something else that I think is actually pretty interesting too. At 4,000, you can see more or less if you picked like any of these 20 quarterbacks, you would have scored points and you would have had like a decent thing. The card I'm starting to compare things against now is defense wins championships. At $3,000, defense wins championships is a 15 or 0, right? And you think, generally speaking, I can pick the right defense. The first couple of weeks have shown that is not true. That, it is picking the right defense is actually harder than expected. But this card actually gives you pretty good bang for your buck, I think, price-wise.
Sure.
A lot of quarterbacks throw interceptions, or have turnovers.
We'll see
And
some real
also,
card
as,
sharps playing it, won't we, Haibo?
Yeah. Yes, we will.
as weather changes, right? We get
Oh,
some,
good
if it's
call.
an outdoor game, if it's sloppy and rainy, like that's going to up fumbles. So that would also play into it as we get later on into the season.
And it's a
Yeah.
huge point. I just kept thinking about interceptions, but yeah, I forgot about the fumbles, and that's where Levis, what a beauty. I don't know. He's going to get you a lot of points here, but he's not going to probably score quite as many as some of these other guys.
No, no. This is a good one to pair with hellacious hellbacks or hellacious halfbacks, maybe. Just forget quarterbacks entirely and just, put your money elsewhere and then go for that. Um, all right, this other card, bobblehead. So this was interesting too,
Wow.
right? So targets minus receptions. Here are your um, top scorers. Dontavian Wicks, 5 for 13. 5 for 13. Sutton, Deontay Johnson, Drake London, Mike Evans. I this card, I don't know. I guess when I first thought about it, it was like, well, you want a receiver that isn't really, that basically drops, right? The theme of the card is like the receiver dropping balls. But looking at this, it's almost like you want someone who gets a ton of targets with a not very good quarterback,
Yeah.
right? It's not a lot of times it's not on the receiver.
Well, I would
And
argue it's also the kind of shots that you're taking, right? Like Baker Mayfield's been playing lights out, and he's targeting Mike Evans, and they are looking for those big plays, and so that's gonna inherently have a little bit more risk reward. And if Mike Evans is big enough of a name and diva that his quarterback's gonna focus in on it, then you can also end up in a good bobblehead situation.
yeah, I mean, when we think um, bad quarterback zeroing in on one receiver, um, Owen, who's your go-to? Bad quarterback zeroing in on one receiver.
Well, I think, and I'm copping out here because he's on the screen right here, but Cortland Sutton, right? Like he's all Denver has, and he's got a rookie quarterback, like 18 points on 9 targets. Deontay Johnson, 18 points on 13 targets. It just shows the inefficiency there. But I mean, I don't know who Bo Nix throws to. I mean, they're struggling there on that aspect. So I think Sutton remains pretty interesting.
Yep. Um, yeah, I think Deontay Johnson here too. Maybe earlier when he still had Bryce Young throwing. Andy Dalton certainly, targeting him a ton.
Yeah,
Um, go back to the Giants, maybe. Danny Dimes with
Malik.
Malik.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Um, yeah. Benny, any thoughts on your side? Who do you think?
Um, so when you say bad quarterback, hyper targeting a receiver, I don't know if they're doing it properly, but I think they should do this more in Vegas, right? Gardner Minshew's always historically been cool with chucking it, and they got a prima donna of a wide receiver out there. But this week they're playing Denver. Like there's Patrick Surtain.
Yeah.
Devontae's a little bit banged up, and they may be running it on the ground a little bit more because you don't need to put up a ton of points against them. But that'd probably be a combo that I'd look at going forward.
Um, Yeah, and I think another interesting thing here is looking at the top scorers, a lot of them are getting a lot of targets. Good synergy there with potentially, catching fire, catching smoke, or tunnel vision of love. Really just make your strategy about targets and go after one of these receivers that get a ton of targets. So, all right. Well, this kind of wraps up kind of our week 4 discussion. Before we go, week 5, any hot takes? Any, doesn't have, it can be smash up related, best combo pick, or just anything off the top of your head. Benny, any week 5 hot takes?
So you were talking about the gambler mentality with any of these positional cards that, with a big play, you could make 30 points. And one of the ones that was left off of the list that you talked about was the kicker, because we always ignore the kicker. But I think in this last few weeks, we've seen some really, really big kicking games, like multiple 50 plus yard kicks in a single game by a single kicker, right? And so I think there's also the highlighted ones with like Atlanta winning off of a big kick like that. And so I think they can play a powerful role even if they don't really matter as much in traditional fantasy. And that's a relatively lower cost between the kicker and the card. And so that's one that I'm looking to play more and more. Thinking more, not necessarily in terms of games with high totals, but maybe the ones with like maybe a stiffer defense and where you're leaning on field goals more.
All right.
Yeah, that's good.
Owen?
I got no short card takes, but I will just say the bye weeks are here. Benny mentioned it earlier. This is the first week we've got a little shrunken down player pool, and I'm gonna have to do some real research because Dobbins and Jameson, two of my top 5 conversations there, they're both on a bye this week. I don't have the Lions or the Chargers, so I don't know what we're gonna talk about next week, Haibo. I'm gonna be struggling.
My hot take for the week is um, I'm going all in on Travis Kelce this week. I think like
Dude,
you just like who is left? Who is left on that Chargers team? And I think Mahomes goes back to targeting Kelce like crazy, and Kelce is going to be the one to break the tight ends out of that funk. And you can even do the Taylor Swift, play anti-hero on Kelce, get triple the points for touchdowns. I think Kelce is going to have a big game.
all right. And I like you throw goldfish memory on Mahomes. What is that, the Monday night game? I think that's the Monday night game.
I, I think so,
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure that's a prime time game.
New Orleans, Kansas
Good
City.
stack.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right. Well, Owen, Benny, thanks for joining us, and yeah, for everyone listening, watching, go. SmashUp starts on Wednesday, so it starts tomorrow. Go set your lineups, and good luck this week. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Bye.